Congress cannot be a partner if it's kept in the dark. I have a long list of unanswered requests sitting on your department's desk. When you do notify Congress, it's to inform us of decisions you have already made. That is not consultation, as you well know. That is not advice and consent. Mr. Secretary, you would not have stood for this kind of stonewalling by the administration when you were a senator, and you certainly shouldn't stand for it as Secretary of State and National Security Advisor.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio was pressed for transparency during a marathon day on the Hill, where he defended the Trump administration's war with Iran, its drastic cuts to foreign aid, and his department's nearly $34 billion budget request. Joining us, New Hampshire Senator and Ranking Member of Senate Foreign Relations, Jeanne Shaheen. Thank you very much for being here, Senator.
Nice to be with you.
So you demanded transparency from the Secretary of State. Did he deliver it?
Well, no, and he didn't really even respond to the concerns that I laid out in my opening statement. I thought it was remarkable that he really didn't say much of anything, to be honest. He got asked a lot about the war in Iran and the endgame on the war in Iran. He didn't really give us any answers on that, other than to say Iran should not have a nuclear weapon, which we all agree. That's been a bipartisan policy for a very long time. He was asked about the boat strikes in the Caribbean. He didn't really have an answer on that. He failed to recognize the concern that Americans have about these foreign entanglements at a time when costs are going up and people are having trouble affording groceries and buying gasoline for their cars, and the mortgages continue to go up. And again, he really didn't address an end to the war in Iran and what that might mean for constituents across the country.
I want to play a little bit of Marco Rubio talking with Senator Booker about whether the war is over.
Rubio, you keep telling us how we're winning this war. The president keeps saying,
well, the war is over.
Completely annihilated. The war is not over. And yet the American people see how we're losing at the pump and with their costs, and yet this thing still hasn't been resolved. Every day he tweets out, oh, we've obliterated them, we've annihilated them, they're going to surrender. But yet we still find ourselves spending billions of dollars a week
Senator
on
Booker,
a war abroad.
You've gone way over. And
the money is still being spent. At what point do you expect Congress to pull it back?
Well, it's not clear. We finally had a vote before we went on recess that Congress weighed in positively to say that the president should come to Congress to weigh in on the war and to end the war. And now we will get a vote on that. So I think that's positive. Whether we can hold on to the votes that we had before we left on break is not clear yet. But I think what Senator Booker was pointing out is that there is no end game for this war in Iran. And the American people continue to pay the price at the gas pump, the price at the grocery store, the price in terms of affordability. And the president doesn't seem to be paying much attention to the concerns that the American people have.
The president, according to Axios, had a pretty wild call with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. The summary of the call, according to a U.S. official who spoke to Axios, is that Trump said, "You're effing," I'm not going to say the word crazy, "you'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your butt. Everybody hates you now. Everybody hates Israel because of this." He was upset with Netanyahu threatening to bomb Beirut, as I guess they're trying to negotiate with Iran. It's a twofold question. What should the relationship be with Israel as this drags on? And does that indicate to you that the president is maybe more desperate to make a deal with Iran and is worried that Israel is getting in the way?
Well, it appears that Israel is getting in the way, frankly. Israel's actions in Lebanon are very serious. Thousands of people have been killed, over 1 million people displaced in Lebanon, and Israel continues to bomb and has gone north of the Litani River, where in previous years they had been willing to provide some sort of a security zone. So there are very real concerns about the impact that that's having on our ability to negotiate with Iran, because Iran continues to support Hezbollah. I think we all understand that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization and that we need to figure out how to eliminate them. But we can't do that as long as Israel continues to bomb and there's no negotiations going on. So I do think there's real concern about how what Israel is doing affects our ability to get some sort of an agreement.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen, Ranking Member of Foreign Relations, thank you very much for joining us.